Fox Hallow Fam. I'm Dave and welcome to Baking with Fox Hallow Kitchen. You know, with summer right around the corner, we decided to do something a little different, and today we're going to make strawberry rhubarb pie. It's tangy, it's sweet, and oh so delicious. Just always remember,
never rub another man's rhubarb.
So if you're ready, then let's have some fun. Okay, well the first thing we're going to do is make a pie crust. We're going to start with 3 cups of flour, or sorry, 2.5 cups of flour. I actually measured out 3. I'll just eyeball it. 2.5 cups. Yep. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. 2 teaspoons of sugar. And then 2 sticks of butter cut up into smaller pieces. I actually cut them up into little squares.
Now, what's the purpose of cutting your butter up into chunks like that, Dave?
It makes it easier to mix it into the flour. Okay. We don't want to actually melt it into the flour. We want to have pockets of butter. We want to have little pebbles of butter in here.
Okay.
So I actually put my butter in the freezer usually.
Okay.
So that we break it up and it doesn't actually melt into the flour.
Okay, makes sense with that.
And it takes 2 sticks of butter to get this done. And then we're going to put the lid in here on our food processor.
Our trusty little Ninja.
Mm-hmm. And we're just going to pulse this until we get little pebbles. Let me see how that is. May have to do it again. That's looking actually not bad. Not bad at all. We got little pebbles of butter in here. It needs a little bit more though, because they're a little too big, some of them.
Okay.
So we're going to do it a little bit more. Let's try that. Yeah, that's more like it.
All right.
We got little pebbles of butter, a lot smaller than pea size, but they're in there. Next thing we're going to do is we need this to hold together like a pie crust. So I'm going to add a little bit of ice water at a time, like a couple tablespoons at a time.
Now, why couldn't you use just regular water just right out of the sink? Why does it need to be so cold?
So that we don't melt the butter. This is the only reason.
Okay.
We don't want the butter melt into the flour, or it's not going to be a nice pastry with flaky crust. And we're just going to keep adding water to this. See, it's already starting to form up a little bit, but we need more. And I think that does it. There, now we got a dough that we can use. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide this into 2 pieces, and we're going to wrap them in plastic wrap, and then throw them in the refrigerator to solidify for about an hour. Now the first thing I need for our filling is of course rhubarb. I have about 1 pound of rhubarb here, and I'm going to cut the ends off just like I would celery. And then we're going to cut these into 1/2-inch pieces. And we're going to cut this up until we have 3 to 4 cups. 1 pound should do it. And that ought to do it. Out of 1 pound of rhubarb, I got about 3.5 cups of chopped pieces, and that'll be perfect. And now we move on. Okay, next I have about 1.5 pounds of strawberries, and I've already rinsed these and cut the tops off. So I'm going to chunk these up into little 1/2-inch pieces, the same as I did the rhubarb. And we're going to put these in the same bowl as the rhubarb. I'm just going to get about 3 cups out of these, and then we'll stop. Okay, I got a good 2 cups here. I'm going to put this in the same bowl as my rhubarb. And I just need 1 more cup of strawberries, and we are good to go. Okay, so now we're going to complete our filling. I have my strawberries and my rhubarb in a bowl here. I'm going to add to that a 1/3 cup of brown sugar.
Okay.
A 1/3 cup of white sugar.
Okay.
1/4 cup of cornstarch. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Tablespoon of orange juice.
Now, why do you need the orange juice, Dave?
It just adds a little depth of flavor and a little more acidity to it.
Okay.
And then a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And we're going to use our slotted spoon, and we're going to mix this all together here.
Just get everything covered then?
Get everything coated. And the sugars and the cornstarch.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely smell the strawberries from here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's looking good.
Yeah, it looks like you're getting a nice syrup almost with it. So.
Okay, so we're going to set this aside while we work on our crust. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do here is we have our dough that's been in the refrigerator for at least an hour, and we're going to try to roll it out into a circle for our bottom crust.
Okay.
To get it out of the plastic here.
Now, remind me again, Dave, what was the purpose of refrigerating the dough?
It makes the butter more solid, and it lets the glutens develop.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to set it down on here on some flour. Use copious amounts of flour.
We're using big words today?
Yes, we're using big words today. And we're just going to gently roll this out.
Looks like it's spread out pretty easily.
So far, so good, yeah. What we want is a big circle here.
Okay. Just roll it out and then keep going with it.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to keep going until we get a big circle that I can put in a pie plate.
Okay. Now, what type of crust are you going to put on this?
This is going to be a lattice top crust to show off the red of the strawberries and rhubarb.
Okay.
So we're going to make it a lattice top crust. This is the bottom so far that we're doing here.
Okay.
I'm just going to gently roll this out till we get a circle that's big enough to put in our pie plate.
Okay. Now, how big of a circle do you need, Dave?
We're going to use a 9-inch deep dish pie plate, so I need about a 12-inch circle.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more. It's okay to have more. What you don't want is too little.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have to go back and redo it, right?
Yeah, you'd have to roll it out again because there's not enough crust.
Okay.
Okay. And our crust is rolling out really nicely.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you got any cracks going or anything.
No, it's not cracking or anything like that. I'm going to get a little bit more here.
Okay.
And then I think we're about there.
Okay.
Let me see it against my pie plate. 1 moment. And this is going to be our pie pan, so I think we are just about there. Needs a little more width. And I think we are ready to go. We're going to stick this in our pie plate. Okay, so now we're going to take our pie crust very gently here, and we're going to place it in our pie pan. Center it. And then we're going to let it go down inside.
Now, what do you do with the excess crust there?
Basically throw it away. You can use it for if you run out of lattice or something on the top, or you want to put decorations on the top, you can do that with the extra crust. Otherwise, it's not really good for anything.
So basically what you're saying is you trim it off?
You trim it off, yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, trim off the excess. This is working really well. It's down in there, really good. And I'm going to leave the excess on for right now. Okay, so we're going to take our filling, which has sat here for a little while, and we're going to not use any of the excess liquid. Strawberry rhubarb pie is notoriously liquid, so we're going to leave some of it in the bottom of the bowl. That's why I have my slotted spoon here.
Okay.
And we're just going to spoon it all in.
What does the liquid come from? Does it come mostly from the strawberries or the rhubarb?
It's a little of both. Strawberries have a lot of salt water in them, a lot of liquid, and so does the rhubarb.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you get as much of the excess out. There's other ways of doing it too. You can pre-cook the filling and then drain the liquid off. I'm just draining off the excess now.
Yeah, this seems like it's the most simple.
Mm-hmm. I'll just get as much in here as we can fit.
Now, whenever it does bake, you said we'll get a lot of the juices.
Yeah, the cornstarch should thicken it up.
Okay.
That's why we use the whole 1/4 cup of cornstarch, because that should thicken it up pretty good.
Now, for those who've never had rhubarb before, what would you describe as the taste?
It is a little tart. It's kind of like a hard celery. It's an odd thing to make a pie out of, but rhubarb is very tart. It's very sour.
Okay.
If you taste it raw, it's nothing like celery at all. It's a very sour vegetable, and that complements the strawberries.
So you get almost like a sweet and sour.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So
Okay.
I think we're ready to put our lattice top on.
All right.
I'm
Sounds
spread
great.
this out a little bit. Okay. Okay, before I put my lattice top on, I'm going to dot this top with a little bit of butter here and there. And gives it a little creamier filling and gives it a depth of flavor. And we're not going to use more than a tablespoon of butter. We're just going to lose a little bit here. And that's it. We're ready for our top. Okay, so now I'm going to take the second half of my crust and roll this out as well. Again, we're covering it in flour to keep it from sticking to the work surface. And we're just going to roll this out gently. Into a big circle. This is the smaller of the two pie crusts. I don't need to roll it out quite as far because it's not going down in the dish. But we still want it to be more or less of a circle. And I think that's just about right there. That's perfect. Alright, next I'm going to take this pie shell and I'm going to use my trusty pizza cutter and I'm going to cut it into 1/2 inch strips. Approximately 1/2 inch. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're just going to cut the whole thing into strips like that. Okay, that's probably more than we need. We're going to set these aside a little bit while we bring our pie crust in. Okay, so I have my strips here. I'm going to gently take one of them, starting with the biggest ones, and lay it across the center. And space them about 1/2 inch apart, or 1 inch apart maybe. Like that. Take some of the smaller ones. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take 1/2 of these, every other one, and roll them back. Just like that. A little more than halfway. And we're going to take another long one and run it across here, right at the halfway point, and roll these up. And then roll the other ones back. Put another one across. And just keep going like that.
Now, Dave, do you find it hard to make the lattice crust? Or?
No, it just takes a little longer than a regular flat pie crust, but it looks nice, especially if you have like a red or colored filling like this. It really makes it look nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this something that kind of takes practice with, or?
No, not really. The hardest part is cutting the strips to the right size.
Okay.
But otherwise, just a half inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. Half inch, 3/4 inch is perfect, and then just run them across like this.
Oh, that looks great.
There you go. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, once I have this lattice on here, I'm going to pinch it down to the edge of the crust here.
Okay.
Just to make sure that it stays. We're going to get the edge of our crust together. Takes a little doing here.
Takes a little bit of work.
Yeah, to get them to stick to each other.
Okay.
Once I have this kind of stuck together, I'm going to cut the excess off. I usually use a knife and then just sort of use the pie crust as a guide, or the pie plate as a guide.
Okay.
And just saw it off real easily.
Yeah, it looks basically kind of like you just take your time and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just take your time and get this extra pie crust off of here.
Oh, that's going to look so pretty.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
All right. That looks great, Dave.
Yep. One last step before we put it in the oven. Finally, I have my egg washed. This is just an egg beaten together with a tablespoon of milk. And we are going to brush that over the top very gently with my brush here. Onto our crust. Once I've got that pretty well covered, I'm going to take some coarse sugar and sprinkle over the top of the pie crust. We're going to bake this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then turn the oven down to 350 and bake it again for another 30 to 35 minutes. And then take it out and let it cool. And now for the best part of any pie recipe, the taste test. I got a little piece here. Let me get a piece on my fork. Oh, that is really tart and tangy. The strawberries are terrific, and so is the rhubarb. You guys are going to love this. Wrapping up today, I want to thank you all for joining us and encourage you to check out our friends and support channels listed in the description below. But before I go, always remember, good times and good food on Baking with Fox Hallow Kitchen. We'll see you soon.
If you like this video or any of our other videos,
Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons and stay tuned for future shows.